this is be careful what you wish for, and this was exactly what I was saying earlier in terms of second and third order effects. And I warned the Pentagon about this, and I warned the Treasury about this.
Hey guys, welcome back to Library of Wealth. Today we have Jim Rickards giving us his take on the current market and how Bitcoin will be affected by it. Rickards will also walk us through the crypto market and the current state of uncertainty, as well as the role the Fed has played in recent weeks that's leading to the biggest inflationary environment in history. He'll talk about Bitcoin and why there was a huge change in his sentiment towards the dominant crypto asset. This definitely shows that Bitcoin's use case is starting to make itself known even to its staunchest critics, something that has been inconceivable in recent years. Let's check out this interview with Jim Rickards where he discusses his Bitcoin prediction and why he believes power is changing from the fiat money world to the Bitcoin world. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here on this channel. Let's get right into the video.
The dollar has been a cryptocurrency since at least 1979. That was the last year the Treasury issued a paper treasury note. Like you had a note, maybe somebody's grandmother still has an old one in the attic, but they had little almost like stamps, like you peel off a coupon and take it down to the bank and get paid. That the last time they did that was 1979. So the dollar has been digital, and message traffic has been encrypted since around 1980. But I think in terms of the impact on the dollar, this is be careful what you wish for, and this was exactly what I was saying earlier in terms of second and third order effects. And I warned the Pentagon about this, and I warned the Treasury about this because I know how economic sanctions work. I've been very involved in that from the point of view of the intelligence community and also advising the government. But they can be powerful, but if you use them too much and too broadly, they actually lose all their impact, because the people you're targeting say, well, okay, no mas, I'm out of the dollar system. You've done it one too many times. And this is an example of that. We've never frozen a central bank before. We have now. We've never kicked an entire country out of SWIFT with the exception of Iran, but that's a much more isolated case. We have now with Russia. And so instead of just sitting there saying, oh, gee, you got me, we can say, okay, let's go to a new payment system. Let's pick up a new currency. The Saudis are saying the same thing. But everyone's like, well, the Chinese yuan is going to be the global reserve currency. No, it's not going to be the ruble. But here's why. Well, there are a lot of reasons. But the main reason is when you talk about reserve currency, you have to understand what that means. It's not like the People's Bank of China has a bunch of $100 bills on pallets stacked up in the basement. When people say reserve currency, what they really mean is the currency of the bonds that they invest in. In other words, they're dollar-denominated assets in the form of treasury bonds or notes. That's what China actually has on their books, not like dollars per se.
Rickards goes on to say what he thinks about what's going to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, and why, because of the infrastructure, China and Russia's current monetary system cannot. Rickards also believes that a global crisis is right around the corner.
If you want to suggest or hypothesize that the Chinese yuan is going to replace the US dollar as a global reserve currency, where's the yuan bond market? I mean, it doesn't exist. Very small scale, very illiquid, no primary dealers, no when issue trading, no auctions, no repo, no settlement clearance, none of the plumbing and the mechanics of a mature bond market such as the United States. And above all, they don't have a rule of law. I mean, at least if somebody reneges on a treasury bond, you can sue somebody, but you can't do that in China. So the absence of the rule of law, number one, the absence of the infrastructure, the plumbing, for want of a better word, are two reasons why the yuan and certainly the ruble will not replace the dollar as a reserve currency. However, what I was hypothesizing then, and I'll come back to this, is you can create a brand new currency that does have all that stuff.
How far are we from this really erupting to that global crisis, Jim? Does it happen exponentially from here? Does it take a few years? Where are we at?
It's more the former. We are uncomfortably close. Now, it's impossible to know exactly how close because it's a complex dynamic system, and you can make very good predictions on complex dynamic systems as to the magnitude of the crisis, but it's very hard to get the exact timing because you never know what thing is going to trigger it. But I can say that we're uncomfortable because now we've been there twice before in recent years. 1998, we came within hours of shutting every market in the world. Began with a Russian default, by the way. August 17th, 1998, Russia defaulted on their external debt, and the ruble was grossly devalued. That started a global liquidity crisis, went around the world, ended up in my lap at Long-Term Capital Management, where we had $1.4 trillion of derivatives. And everyone goes, oh, long-term capital, you guys lost a lot of money in Russia. We didn't. We lost maybe $100 million in Russia, but we lost closer to $4 billion on everything else, because in a liquidity crisis, people sell everything. It's not a question of, oh, do you have Russian bonds? It's like, no, they sell everything. Spreads widen, not enough collateral, margin calls, people being blown out of their positions. That's what a global financial crisis looks like. We cured that with a $4 billion all-cash injection sponsored by the Federal Reserve and two rate cuts, one on an emergency basis by Alan Greenspan. We got through that, but we came within hours of shutting every market in the world. Same thing in 2008. We all know, September 15, 2008, Lehman Brothers. Okay. People don't realize that, Morgan Stanley was days away from failing. Goldman Sachs was days away from failing. John Mack said so at the time. Lehman was begging for help. He said, sorry, I got enough on my plate. We're worried about Morgan Stanley right now. And then the Fed came in. So think of it as dominoes are falling. So all the dominoes are falling, and they're going to keep falling unless you truncate it, drop a wall in. And that wall was the Fed. But here's my point. Each bailout gets bigger than the one before. Each crisis is more dangerous than the one before. So 1998, 2008, here we are in 2022. We're going to get to a point, we may be there, where the crisis is actually bigger than the Fed, bigger than the Fed's ability to stop.
And I guess finally, to just bring this home, given the terrifying picture you've just painted, Jim, how should we be protecting ourselves here?
Well, you want assets that are going to be immune from a global liquidity crisis. What are they? Land, real estate, gold, silver, fine art. I see Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe has gone, they estimate $200 million. You could have bought that for $50,000 in the 1970s. That's a little more specialized, but there are, natural resources, water, et cetera. Energy, oil. If you want to be in stocks, okay, get stocks of companies that are based on natural resources, such as ExxonMobil, Chevron. I'm just giving these as an example, but so there are a lot of ways to protect yourself. But a regular stock portfolio is not a good one, and banks are going to be in distress. Money market funds are going to be in distress. That's what a liquidity crisis is. So the answer to the question, Danielle, is that they didn't think this through. They don't understand these knock-on effects. They don't understand how the international monetary system actually works. They don't understand the blowback. We had a supply chain breakdown before any of this started. The supply chain has been breaking down in stages over the last several years. That became acute last fall, and everyone's like, oh, well, yeah, give it a month, they'll sort things out. No, it's getting worse. It's going to get a lot worse. So those are some of the economic effects, and those are the easy ones. I'll give you an example of a more difficult one. So we kicked Russia and their 10 biggest banks out of SWIFT. That's what that is. That's the worldwide banking telecommunications facility. So you can't use SWIFT to move money around. Kick them out of the dollar payment system. Did a long list of things. Can't trade Russian bonds, can't receive, can't send, etc. Well, the other day, the Central Bank of Russia paid dollar interest on their external dollar-denominated bonds. Now, they have about $150 billion of external dollar-denominated debt. They had a big payment coming up, interest payment, and they paid it. Like, how did that work? But in the fine print, a lot of these things have delayed effective dates. They were issued in late February, early March, but they had 30, 60, or 90-day delays in the effective date. So most of them aren't even in place yet.
Jim Rickards says this is a make-or-break time for markets around the globe, as the crypto industry at large has too many working parts now to be stopped. Although he does have a slightly different opinion on government regulation, only time will tell. Rickards isn't surprised about those that hold a favorable position with the United States government, especially those that support the dollar as the world's reserve currency. He doesn't believe governments should be involved and says that Bitcoin's longevity is designed to survive without intervention from any governing body. What do you think about Jim Rickards' interview? Comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.